The OTA issue has not yet resulted in litigation or any type of a union grievance, but there is a fight between the NFL and the NFLPA that is still happening. The question of whether or not players will show up or not show up, and the dribs and drabs of teams issuing statements saying they're not going to be there. Again, I'll believe it when it doesn't happen. That continues. The thing that's significant to me, though, Myles, it was yesterday at 6 o'clock Eastern time that the Cowboys had a video conference to talk about this recommendation that they stay away from the offseason program, the in-building, on-field offseason program, and we haven't seen a statement from the Cowboys yet. I wonder how many of these teams, for everyone that has, and we saw the Bears comment there, the Browns have issued one, the Giants have issued one. How many teams have said, thanks, we understand your point, we wish you well, but we know we're going to work out anyway. Why not just work out at the team facility? That's the thing I continue to come back to, Myles. You're going to work out anyway. Work out at the team facility and have insurance against an injury that would keep you from playing this season, because if that happens at the building, you get paid. If it happens at Planet Fitness, you don't get paid.
Exactly. And that's sort of the thing that I don't necessarily understand, where they're talking about guys and saying, you know, they know how to work out on their own. We know how to get prepared. A lot of times, guys are going to go and have throwing sessions. I've already seen this on social media with some guys are already doing kind of throwing sessions before the offseason program was even supposed to begin. Now, that's one thing. And in phase one of the offseason program, which now is going to be this 4-week virtual period, they wouldn't be able to be on the field anyway with a ball, you know, and you're throwing with all these different guys. That's not allowed really during that time, as I understand it. So it becomes then in late May, right? And in June, early June, usually when the OTA practices are. Why would you not want to be in the facility where, like you're saying, Mike, you have that protection there? And if you're at that point, and a lot of these statements have been talking about the COVID-19 pandemic and all that, and how we don't know what the safety precautions are going to be. I think that we know that the NFL has basically said, look, we're still going to have testing, you know, and we are recommending to, well, not even recommending. It's basically for all employees that are not players, you have to get vaccinated. So then it is incumbent on the player to say, I'm going to get vaccinated too, so I protect myself from this virus. If you can do all of that, and, you know, I don't necessarily know what the COVID-19 issue is going to have to do with it by late May, because at this point, pretty much anybody who wants to get a shot can get a shot, or at least sign up to get a shot. So I understand what the players are saying, but also if I'm the NFL and I know that we collectively bargained the fact that we were going to have an off-season program last year, I don't know why I would back down on this.
I am as supportive of player rights as anyone in the media, especially anyone who works for the league or works for one of the network partners. And I will say, when I think the league is at fault, when the players have a point, and when the players are being treated unfairly, and when the fans are lining up behind the billionaires instead of supporting the players that they all think are millionaires. Guess what? They're all not millionaires. And so my record is staunch in that regard. I think they're blowing this. I think this is a huge mistake. I think it's so obvious that this isn't about COVID-19. If it was, every player would be vaccinated. And if it is about COVID-19, what's wrong with the protocols that they negotiated last year for training camp, regular season, and postseason? What don't they like about the protocols they agreed to last year? What's the problem? And why aren't you getting vaccinated? It really undercuts your argument if you're not getting vaccinated. It undercuts your argument if you don't like the protocols that you agreed to. And I think this is, Myles, a combination of different motivations, different agendas. Guys like J.C. Tretter, he doesn't want one anyway. So, hey, we got a pandemic. We can point to that. But next year, I don't want one either. Well, what's your reason next year? I just don't want one. I'll keep finding reasons until I admit I just don't want one. Other guys are just pissed because the NFL always wins at the bargaining table. This is a way for them to push back a little bit. But if you try and it collapses, what they need to understand is, and I think this is part of the very linear mindset that most football players have, and it can be a very successful mindset. But at the same time, there are plenty of football players that have never seen a brick wall they aren't ready to ram their head into. And this idea that we're just going to go forward They're not thinking what it means if it does collapse and the NFL comes out of this, Myles, saying, we've proven again that this workforce is incapable of collective action.
Well, the other thing, too, is, Mike, I mean, you've had teams who have released statements that say, we're not coming. Then we have teams where it's some of us are not coming. The majority of us are not coming. And you can't even necessarily get teams to agree on those types of things. And now, since the Browns, obviously, J.C. Tretter is a Browns player, it doesn't surprise me that the Browns, as a collective, have said, we're not coming to these voluntary workouts. But when they cite the COVID-19 pandemic, I think, like you said, I mean, I am in Cleveland right now. I signed up to get a shot. It was extremely easy. I went and I got my first one. I am on the list, and I'm getting my second one this Sunday. I am very happy about it. So there are ways to be able to get vaccinations, right? And I think, you have a point when you're talking about saying it's not just about the COVID-19 pandemic. It's mostly that they don't want this to happen anyway. And I, too, am very pro-player. I obviously don't have the same length of a track record as you do, but I do believe that this is not a situation.
That's a polite way of calling me old, Myles.
I was hoping we could just move past it. It was kind of a drive-by there. But, I really do think that this is not necessarily a fight that the players can win, because once you get these young guys in, the draft picks that want to make the team, that are, your 6th, your 7th round picks, the undrafted guys that are going to come in and try to make the team. I mean, you've been saying this for the last 2 days, right? Everybody that is going to sign an undrafted free agent is probably going to make it very clear that you need to be in the building. And even if they didn't make it clear, the agent is going to make it clear, because otherwise you don't have a shot at making the team. So I don't really know how this ends for the players, but it just seems like it's going to be a scattershot thing. Some guys are going to be in, some guys aren't, and they don't have to be. It's voluntary. But I don't know that you're going to get the real kind of collective action that the players would need to really force some kind of change.
Last point on this, the timeline that the NFL has put together is brilliant, because the rookie minicamp that happens every year, voluntary rookie minicamp, but you have draft picks, undrafted free agents, and also tryout players. Do you think a tryout player who isn't worried about getting to the 53, he's just trying to get to the 90, you think he's not going to show up? I think that guy's going to be there. They're going to have 50 guys or more in every training camp, every facility, training camp comes later, but every facility, the second week, third week of May, right before phase 3 of the offseason program, when the doors open for those 10 on-field practices. It's not going to work. They can point to specific victories, a certain player stays away, or a certain team only has 20 guys or whatever. It's not going to work. It's not going to work, and they'd be better off finding a different way to fight this fight.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.